Welcome to this demo on how you can achieve more as an independent school with Microsoft Teams and CloudBox. So it's about how we can extend school data sync and Microsoft Teams and hopefully add more value into your school and your offering. If you're an academy or a MAT, check out our other demo videos, which are specifically tailored for those types of schools. So just to tell you a bit about ourselves, we're a team of SharePoint and Teams education experts. We support over 300 schools in the UK and many abroad as well. We work with all types of schools, so pre-prep, prep, all through junior, senior, public, grammar schools, but we specialise in education technology. We work with a large number of independent schools, and you can find out more information on our website with case studies and some examples on there. So before we jump into a demo, I'm just going to take you through some of the key benefits to using the CloudBox solutions on top of what you get already out of the box with Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. So one of the main benefits is saving teacher time. So having that one version of the truth where teachers, staff can share resources across all of the classes that they teach. So if you're a teacher and you teach lots of different, for example, Year 11 English classes, then you can store all of your resources in a central English resource site, and you can access all of those resources from every single English class that you teach every single academic year, and so can your colleagues. So it's about having that one place to store your resources and everybody sharing those resources so we're not duplicating teacher workload. And it's also about saving department leader time as well. So by having those centralized resource areas, it means we can make sure that the quality of those resources is good because they're just in one place. We don't need to micromanage individual class teams. But also you can check the analytic dashboard that we provide to make sure that teachers are setting work in that particular department. And again, that means that the department leader doesn't need to jump into each individual class team and check that work's being set and checking the quality of those resources are okay, because they're all available at a higher level. It's also about improving communication. So we create a SharePoint intranet, and that's a place where you can publish resources to wide audiences across the school, whether it's policy documents, staff handbooks, any sort of news and communication that you need to publish. That's available inside SharePoint, built into Teams. And just trying to make it as simple to use as possible. So when you get SharePoint and Teams out of the box, it's not always teacher friendly, student friendly, and that's something that we try and apply on top of that. So making it as simple and as easy to use as possible. And the other side of this is making sure that staff use it long term, and the fact that you don't leave anybody behind when you go on that user adoption journey. So making sure that you've got a clear long-term strategy, whether that's a year, 2 years, whether it's just a couple of terms or a term, making sure you have that long-term plan so that staff can get confident using it and that they're not overwhelmed by everything changing overnight, because this is a big change for staff. It's moving into the cloud. So it's important that you have the support for teachers and for non-teaching staff on how to use the new technology. So we're a Microsoft Global Training Partner, and we provide instructor-led online training sessions where staff can gain some confidence using the new system. And because we're a Microsoft Global Training Partner, it means they can also work towards their MIE badges, so their Microsoft Innovative Educator badge, and also get a CPD certificate from the CPD certified courses and portals that we provide. And making sure that you can save costs in the school. So if you've got a VLE system that you're using currently, you might find that Microsoft Teams does a lot of that already, and that is free for schools. So potentially saving costs on software, but also refreshing hardware and licensing infrastructure that you might have in school by moving your resources into the cloud. That's potentially making large savings over the long term there as well. And hopefully saving IT time as well by automating these classes and subjects from the school's live MIS data, so that happens automatically. So when you're embedding this in the school, before we jump into a demo, I'll just quickly go through this. So it's really important to communicate that vision to the school, where you want it to be, next academic year or in a couple of terms' time, and making sure that staff have buy-in to that. And you can do that by giving key staff ownership over the project. So rather than it being just IT driven, this project, it's really important to bring on board some of the curriculum staff. And that will definitely help with user adoption. But making those long-term plans and milestone dates, whether it's going to be, your old system might be read-only in a term's time, and maybe it's going to be switched off in a couple of terms, but making sure that you have those milestone dates in place and that you're not overwhelming staff by changing everything overnight. And making sure that you support staff with that training. Again, that's something we can help you with, and measuring the success of that training as you go along. So every time the staff get their training sessions, measure the progress, see what additional help they need, adjust your strategy, and keep training them. And if it's going really well, then you might want to adjust that plan and roll it out quicker. And if it's going, if you've got some issues you need to resolve, then again, adjust your strategy. But the most important thing is that you bring everybody on that journey with you. So we'll now jump into a demo to have a quick look at what it is that we will provide on top of what you get out of the box with SharePoint and Teams. So we're going to start off in SharePoint, and then we'll move over to Teams, and we'll see how the two link together as well. So this is a SharePoint homepage. This is where staff and students might land when they maybe open a web browser or click on a link on your website. And on here we've got some school news on here, and this might be news from around the school, so that this is going to be personalized for the individual as well. So if I was a member of staff, there might be some staff news items on here. If I take geography, there might be some geography news items on here, but it's all brought together on this homepage and personalized for the individual. We've also got things on here like word of the day and some trust level news, some videos, some training videos, but the idea is that these pages will evolve over time. They're really easy to edit if you wanted to edit them and change the contents on them, but it will evolve over time as you decide how you're going to use SharePoint, how it's going to be a benefit to your school. Across the top we can see we've got the school logo and the school colours, and when we open up the menu, these are all the sites and teams that I have access to. So again, it's personalized for me when I log into the site. So I've tried to group them into different categories so you can understand the different types of sites and teams that you might have in your setup. So we've got communication sites, and inside here we might have any sort of news, information, documents that we want to publish to wide audiences. So a quick example of that might be a library site where we've got welcome to the library team, we've got books of the week, we've got a countdown to our book day, we've got some news on there. So again, any sort of content that you want to publish on that page, and again you could delegate this to the library team so they can update their own page. It might be something that's a bit more document based, so this is a staff site where we've got some IT guides, some school policies, some staff handbooks. Maybe we might have a weekly or daily staff briefing or lunch rota on here. And again, all staff would probably have read access to this site, but only some staff would actually be able to edit and update these pages. And if I go into policies, this is a really good example of how you can use SharePoint to streamline some of those admin business processes that you might have inside school. So this is our policy library. We've got some policy documents uploaded, and I can quickly, out of the box, add a new column, call it expires. I'll pick the time and date column. You can see here I've quickly created an expiry date column, just using some of the out of the box features in just a few seconds, and I can quickly see then which policies are out of date, which ones need reviewing, and which ones are okay. And I can even set up a quick email reminder to send me an email a few days before those policies expire. So that's a really basic example of how you can streamline some of those business processes in school. But of course, you could take it a step further than that. Over time, you could add in things like leave requests and absences, etc., that you might want to build into SharePoint at a later date. So, SharePoint is there for you to build on top of. And if I open up the menu again, we've got the collaboration column here. And these are teams, non-curricular teams, which are effectively going to replace some of those staff and student shared drives that you might have in school. So if you had, for example, a finance folder on the school network, that would be replaced with a finance team inside Office 365. So it's a slightly different approach than you might have had on premise, but it's the same outcome. Those different teams of people have some secure areas to work together. They get a few extra features like chat and video call if they wanted to use them inside Microsoft Teams. And this is a SharePoint view of those sites. So I can go into the data team. If I'm a member of that team, I can see it on the menu. And I can jump into any of those channels within that team. So I could go into the exam analysis channel as an example. And I get all the features of SharePoint in here. I can work on those documents. I can co-author them. I can do version history. I've got recycle bin, etc. Or if I wanted to, I could actually switch over into Microsoft Teams and I could work on the documents within Teams as well. And there's no right or wrong way of doing that. You might find that actually after the pandemic, staff, especially teaching staff, are quite confident using Teams already. And for them, they might just go straight into Teams and work on those documents. And maybe for some of your admin staff, they're not quite confident with Teams yet. And for them, more of a traditional website-based navigation. It's a bit more well-structured, easy to navigate. For them, they might be a bit more familiar with that. And that might be the way that they go into those different documents within those teams. And then we've got the subject sites and the classes. So these are your curriculum sites from your MIS data. So we integrate with all UK MISs and quite a few other ones as well. And what would normally happen is overnight, it would synchronize the class data from your MIS. For a typical secondary school, that might be 1,200 class teams that it creates and populates the memberships of. And those would last for one academic year, then they'll get archived off and they'll get a new class team for the new academic year. That's how the MIS works and how Microsoft School Data Sync works. And one of the issues we find is we'll create all of those different classes, and if you're a teacher and you teach multiple classes and other people in your department teach those classes as well, then you don't really want to have to upload your documents for every single team that you teach every single academic year. So the idea is we create some subject resource areas, and again these get created automatically from that MIS data. So if I was a teacher and I teach English, if I teach some English classes, then an English central resource site will automatically be created and I would have access to it because I teach English or I'm enrolled on English as a student. And if we go into that English site as an example, we can see that there's some staff-only areas. And again, this is a team, so as a teacher, I can switch over into Teams and work in either environment. But as a student, I've got some student-facing resource libraries that I might have access to. And again, these are all security trimmed from that MIS data. So if I was a student in year 11, I could revise back from previous academic years, but I couldn't see any age inappropriate content, so I can't see year 12 or year 13. And this is just an example using year group based libraries, but we really recommend getting some curriculum staff involved in the planning of these sites, because it might be the case that they want to use course based libraries or key stage based libraries depending how they teach the curriculum. So if I go into year 11 as an example, you might have seen something similar to this inside OneDrive or inside SharePoint or Teams, the Files tab. This is a SharePoint document library where you can drag and drop your documents in. And each document has a version history, so if you make a mistake, you can go back to an earlier version. There's a recycle bin if you accidentally delete a document. You can work on these documents with other members of staff as well, so we can both work on the same document at the same time. So all that is built in as standard. Some of the extras that we add in specifically is some education specific tagging. So It might be the fact that you want to search for a document that belongs to a particular exam board or a particular key stage. Now, searching SharePoint out of the box is really great anyway. Out of the box, I can search for Of Mice and Men, and that will look in the contents of those documents as well as the title. But if I wanted to search for an extra dimension of that document, maybe it belonged to the AQA exam board, maybe it was Key Stage 4, then I can actually search by those tags that the teachers have tagged those documents with, and it will drill down into those specific documents. So as you scale up over time, as these areas grow, then it just makes it a bit easier for people to be able to locate those resources if they can search for them using tags as well as the documents themselves. So that's completely optional. Staff don't have to tag resources, but it's there, and it's definitely good practice if they do that, because it's going to make it more scalable over time, especially if you've got potentially hundreds of thousands of documents in here, or if you're multi-academy trust, you might have millions of documents in here. So actually being able to search across those, if you're a student or you're a teacher, you might be using an iPad or an Android device to find those documents, and you're probably going to use a search box rather than navigate through more of a traditional folder structure. So all that's available inside the subject areas. And if we go to our class dashboard, this is just a quick and easy way to jump into teams and to jump into the relevant area within those teams. So I'm logged in as a teacher. I can see all of the classes that I teach. You'll also see that I've got a year selector here as well, so I can go back and see any class from a previous academic year, which will be, might have been archived off last year, but I can still go back and grab a resource from it if I needed to by using the time machine function at the top here. So if I click on a class team here, I can see all of the students in that particular class team. This is a year 11 English team, set 3, and I can jump straight into the relevant area within that class team. So I can open up the class team in Teams, that will open up Teams, and it will go straight into 11Y English 3. And you might have 1,200 of these class teams synced, and as the membership changes in your MIS, the membership inside Teams will update automatically overnight. So I'm assuming you've seen Teams previously. If you haven't, check out some of our other demo videos where we go into much more detail about what you can do there. I'm just going to show you some of the extra stuff that we add on top, because what you'll find in Teams is you've got a post area where you can have that walled garden conversation with students in your class, that safe place to collaborate and to include those quiet children in the class, a place for them to participate in those lessons. You've got your files tab, where previously you might have kept a lot of your lesson materials in here. Now again, what we mentioned before is, as a teacher, you might teach multiple classes, other people in your department will teach other English classes as well, so you don't really want to upload your resources over and over again and have lots of different versions in different places. Because obviously that's creating extra workload for the teacher. So what we can do for you is automatically add in an extra tab to every single English class team every single academic year with a link to those centralized resources that we just saw inside SharePoint. So I can see the Of Mice and Men resources here. I can access them without even having to jump back into SharePoint. They're available here every single year for every single English class for all the teachers in the school. So you've got one version of the truth, one copy of those documents that you can make sure it's the best quality resource, and they can reuse it with all of the classes in the school. Now, if you've got differentiation in your class, you can always make a copy of it, but you're working off those masters, those original copies. So that's one thing that we add in. Another thing that we add in to the Files tab is a student work folder. And this is where every student has their own folder in that they can access, only they can access. But as a teacher, I can see everybody's folder within that class. So I can go into Susan Abbott's folder, and I can see the documents she's created. She can create new documents in here. She can drag and drop documents in here. We can add comments into those documents so we can work together on maybe some long-term classwork, non-assessed work, or maybe some coursework that needs some constant toing and froing between the teacher and the student without having to go through the formal assignment process that you might get using the assignment system. So those are a few of the extras that we add in, and you'll actually see from the class dashboard back in SharePoint, we can click on a student and we can go straight into that student folder. That will open up Teams. It'll go straight into the team for 11Y English 3, and it'll go to the Files tab and straight into Susan Abbott's work folder. So just trying to make it as simple as possible to use for staff and for students in the school. When it comes to setting your assignments for these groups inside Teams, if I create a brand new assignment, you'll see that you actually get the option when you go to attach a resource to grab a resource from that central resource area. So I can go straight into that central English team, into the documents library, and grab a resource from that same of Mice and Men library that we saw earlier in SharePoint, but I can do that from within the assignment. And I can use that to set that document as an assignment to students. So again, it's making sure that teachers just have that one place to go to. And again, we've got videos going into assignments in much more detail, which you can take a look at on our YouTube page. One thing we do pull in from your MIS is the guardian details, so the parent guardian details. So it's completely optional, but we can pull those in and they can get a weekly email digest of what work's been set and what work is coming up next week for their child. So you might find that actually you've already discovered the Insights tab, where you can see how well students are participating in those lessons and well-being. Lots of great features in here that you can keep track of those students. One thing that we add in to our own analytic dashboard is the ability for you to see how well staff are adopting Microsoft Teams assignments. So within our own assignment analytic dashboard, we can see how well assignments are being used across the entire school. I can see the average usage over time, and I can also sort it by subject area. So if you're looking at which areas might need a bit of extra CPD time, you can focus that training and that support on those particular subject areas. I can even drill down into a particular subject area, and I can see their usage over time, how well they're using Teams assignments, and I can then drill down into an individual class team, and I can see the titles of those assignments, when they were set and when they're due. So as a head of department, I can keep track of the quality of those resources because they're stored in that central resource bank, but I can also make sure that teachers are setting work in that department without having to go into each individual class team, without having to do all that micromanagement, which is extremely time consuming. You just get that high level view of it. While I'm in here, I'll just show you some of the other features that we provide in the admin panel at the moment. So there's a site creation tool in here where you can create your own sites that you want adding to the mega menu in SharePoint. I can choose which column they get added into, choose the members and owners, and this will create the team, but you'll also make sure that that team is created with best practices. So it's not a public team where you're going to get a data breach in the future. It's also going to have a good naming convention as well, and it's automatically going to add the web parts to the page, security trim the links, create the team, and make it available in that menu. There's also the cover manager in here as well. So ideally you update your teachers in the MIS and those sync across overnight. But we know that's not always possible, especially if teachers are off sick or self-isolating. So this tool here gives you the ability to grab a teacher and inject them into a different class that they don't normally teach. And if they're self-isolating for 10 days, then I can put them in this particular class for 10 days, click save, that will instantly add them into that class team, and then it'll automatically remove them on that particular date. So it's just another tool that you could delegate access to for your data manager or somebody who's looking after your teams at the school level, just to make it a bit more flexible, a bit more easier to manage than having to go back to the MIS each time. So just quickly showing you the different types of teams that we create. So we create the class teams. We also create the subject teams, which is the same as what you've just seen inside SharePoint, but this is a view of it from within Teams where I've got those of my men resources. But this is a staff only team that only staff can access. They can have their meeting minutes in here, their video calls, collaborate and chat to each other in a private area for their particular subject area. You've also got a departmental team, which if you're an individual school, this could be a group of subjects working together, like MFL, bringing together French, Chinese, German, or it could be science, bringing together biology, chemistry, physics. And this is a place just for staff where they can collaborate, again, do their video calls, their online meetings in a secure place. And if you're a multi-academy trust, these department teams might actually be bringing together all the teachers across all of the schools that teach that particular department, and again adding that extra layer of collaboration across the school. And you'll actually see inside Teams here, we've got an app icon here for our school intranet, and this is where I can jump into SharePoint from within Teams itself. So if you've already embedded Teams in the school, if they've been using it throughout the pandemic, then they can easily get access to that SharePoint portal without having to go to a URL or click a link. They can just go straight to it within the Teams app itself. So a really quick summary of what we've looked at today. So we centralize resources to save teachers time, so you can reuse them across all of the classes in that particular subject area. And they're available in every single English or every single class team, every single academic year. We create class teams, subject teams, and department teams. And we also provide training as well. So we work with a number of DFE EduTech demonstrator schools and Microsoft Showcase schools. You can find case studies on our website. Here's a quick quote from one of them here. And in terms of our packages, you'll find that there's silver, gold, and platinum. And everything that we've looked at so far in this demo is available in all of those. The only difference between them is with Gold and Platinum, we focus on user adoption. So definitely something we recommend. So what we do is with Gold, we create that long-term rollout plan with you to support you. We provide a training needs analysis where you group people by ability level, if they're teaching staff, non-teaching staff, what course you want to put them on. And then we deliver some trainer-led online workshops. And again, because we're Microsoft Global Training Partners, staff can gain their Microsoft Innovative Educator badges for attending 2 or more hours of those trainer-led sessions. And they can also get their CPD certificates as well. And there's also an online training portal that comes as part of Gold. And you'll find that that's built into your SharePoint intranet. It's updated every quarter with updated videos and guides. And this is all the sessions that we do, which are instructor-led, but you can have a go in your own time. So if you've got staff turnover and you have it as part of your onboarding process, or if staff just want a bit of a reminder of what they did in those instructor-led sessions, then they can come through here and they can watch those videos and do the tasks, and then they've got a little quiz at the end to get their certification. And as part of the Platinum package, we provide more trainer-led workshops, so you can cover more staff in those small groups. And we also provide a digital strategy report for leaders. And this is where we interview curriculum leaders in the school. We find out how they're using Teams in the classroom, and then provide a report to SLT on how they can improve on that, where they're doing really well, and which areas they can improve on moving forwards. So I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, or if you want a personalised demonstration, then please feel free to get in contact. You can fill in the contact form on the website, or you can email us at info@clouddesignbox.co.uk, or you can give us a call on the sales number, which is 01482 688 890. We've also got communities you can be a member of. So if you've got a camera on your phone, you can point it at these QR codes and it'll send you straight to the right URL. So there's our Twitter page, lots of information and guides, links to guides on there. Keep updated that way. Our newsletter, have a monthly newsletter sent to your inbox with all the latest guides and tips that we send out each month. Our YouTube channel, again, lots of free guides and resources for teachers on there. And our Facebook community, which is a small community where teachers can share their best practices when it comes to online learning. So I hope you found that really useful, and feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. And thank you for watching this today.